with the London School. So Mara, over to you.
Okay, thanks, Louise, and good afternoon, everybody. So yeah, I just have just a few slides to explain mainly the aims and objectives of the research on acute malnutrition predictive modelling that we've been doing here in Eastern and Southern Africa, as Louise said, together with the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. So a bit similar to Alex's caveats. I'll just say that, you know, obviously I'm not the one who's been doing the modelling. That's been with the London School of Hygiene, but I'll present mainly the aims and the objectives and how we went about the work, and just touch on some of the early results and then the next steps going forward. Okay. So we thought that there was a need for this work in the region, and we thought that a model like this could be useful, especially in particular countries in the region where we do spend a lot of time and money carrying out surveys, which of course we need for monitoring and evaluation and for planning programs and responses and for measuring progress, as well as for early warning systems and situation analysis. But the surveys are resource intensive in terms of person time, including time spent away from program implementation and in terms of money. And as well as this, at national level, data is often outdated or lacking. And of course, at national level, it doesn't have the same level of geographical disaggregation that would be needed really to be able to identify hotspots and to target response to the places and people most in need. So the overall aim of this modelling research was to try and improve the efficiency of our estimation of GAM and SAM by developing and validating a statistical modelling approach that we could then accurately use to predict GAM and SAM at a decentralised level, so for small areas and in kind of near to real time. So this is a diagram that shows the overall design of how the modelling, the work involved with the modelling. So there were two streams of information that were collected. Firstly, the outcome data, so that's nutrition surveys, and the raw data sets were needed for that. And then the wasting data was reanalyzed as part of the modelling. And then the second stream was collecting all available data on any plausible predictors of wasting, and to identify the plausible predictors. That followed the overall structure of the causal framework for malnutrition. So identifying data on the more distal or root causes of wasting, then data on the intermediate or underlying causes of wasting, and then data as well on the proximate or the more immediate causes as per the causal framework that we all know. So then all this data was cleaned and curated and then used to fit the model to estimate wasting. Following which the model was then tested for its accuracy in predicting malnutrition. So the work was initially intended to be carried out for 3 countries in the Eastern Horn of Africa. We're now at around about step 4 of the work, and that's been done for 2 of the countries so far. So this is just to give an idea of the data and information that we collected to inform the predictor stream. So we just collected as much data and information that was available for all these areas. So nutrition survey reports first, then whatever routine data that we could find, especially on admissions and discharges from nutrition programs, population census data, any demographic data, any data or information on livelihood zones, any data that was already existing on causal analysis or any work that had been done on causal analysis of malnutrition, all IPC analysis reports, any IYCF, young child feeding practice reports, the 5 Ws, who's working where, doing what, information on altitude, rainfall, IDPs, market prices, cereal prices, it's all listed there, and then more routine data, including vaccination uptake and morbidity incidents. And again, the idea was to use is to try and use data that's already collected and is already available without having to collect new data. So anything that's coming through a routine system or is already collected on a routine basis. That's what we try to use for the models. So the two countries that are most advanced in the work at the moment are Somalia and South Sudan. And this is just a summary of the nutrition surveys that were identified for the first stream of data. So out of 262 surveys shared from Somalia, 71 were eligible for use in the final analysis and fitting of the model. In South Sudan, while 241 surveys were shared, there were 175 that were eligible for use. And the reasons for why they were not eligible are listed below there. So this is just the framework that was used, as I mentioned earlier, to identify the distal, the intermediate, and the proximal predictors of acute malnutrition. Again, it's based on the conceptual framework for the causes of malnutrition. So the distal predictors that were identified are listed here in the lighter grey, the intermediate in the kind of this medium grey, and then the proximal predictors in the dark grey here. And so the model now has been developed and has been fitted with the data for South Sudan and Somalia, using logistic regression and linear regression, and also random forest prediction. I won't go into the details of that. I won't be able to give you the details of that, but I'm happy to take questions and pass them on. The results are not quite yet available. The London School of Hygiene is still doing further analysis to see if they can improve on the predictive power of the model. So far, there has not been any particular of the key predictors modeled that had a very strong influence on predicting acute malnutrition. And maybe this could be because of the multi-causality of acute malnutrition, that maybe we won't find any one or two or three that can really strongly predict. But it could also be because some of the data that was provided was not of good enough quality or was not complete enough to be included in the model. So there is also room to try and improve on the quality and completeness of data included for each country. So the next steps as of now is to review the statistical approach that was used, and particularly to include MUAC. So the modelling that has been done so far is just based on weight for height. So London School of Hygiene are going to do it to also include MUAC, to predict with MUAC, and then to further test the model to see if there's any more data or if we can complete any of those data gaps, and then to document our findings going forward. So that's pretty much it for me. I'm happy to take any questions. And just also to acknowledge the team from London School of Hygiene who've been doing this work. So it's Severine Friston together with Francesco Cecchi and his team. So back to you, Louise.
Thank you, Mara. That was very interesting. So, colleagues, I would want to open the floor now for any clarifications or questions for Mara.
Victoria raised your hand.
Yes, Victoria, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just patiently waiting. I wasn't sure if there are other hands. Great presentation, Mara. I won't put you on the hot seat too much, but I was quite curious on the cleaning and kind of curation of the SMART surveys. Do you have any idea how long that process took? Was it, was there a kind of more automatic system that was then developed and it went much more quickly, or any idea on that kind of time required for that stage? Over.
Yeah, no, thanks, Victoria. Thanks for the question. And that took a long time. I mean, cleaning and curating all the data has taken a long time. Yeah, the SMART surveys are probably one of the easiest because in most of the countries we were able at least to get a summary of the results rather than having to kind of trawl through all the survey reports and pull out the data that was needed. So in most countries where we were able to provide the raw data sets for most of the surveys to LSHTM, so that made it much faster for that process. But it has taken a long time to curate all that data. And I know going forward, if we were to do this in more countries, that would certainly be an area that we would need to kind of make sure that we had enough capacity in place to be able to do that more quickly, at least.
Great, thank you, Mara.
Okay, thanks, Victoria. Any other questions, colleagues? Or clarifications?
Yes, Liz. Yes, this is Kutab. Mara, thank you very much. It was a wonderful presentation. Can you hear me? Mara, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Kutab, go ahead.
Okay. And okay, thank you very much for this wonderful presentation. I have seen that you really is really a big data concept. I have seen a lot of data sources you are using for this prediction, and it seems like it's not your modeling will be not based on individual information, but it will be on a cumulative indicators on different data set. That what I so far I learned. So I was wondering, in the area, like in South Sudan, as you know, that we have done on the individual information, in the area where you have a very good data sets, where in South Sudan we have this FSNMS data, so we have individual information and we have very good data sets. So I was wondering that which will be better, to go on the cumulative information or on the individual information? Over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Kutab, and it's a great question. And I don't have a great answer for you right now, only because, yes, I mean, you're right. And I think there's another question in the chat that this is not so much on an individual level, but we're looking at predicting GAM for an area, ideally for a small area. So at kind of at county level or locality level or district level, whatever. Which approach will work better, I'm not sure. So far, like I said, the results have not been that promising. It hasn't, we haven't found any particular predictors that we can say kind of with certainty that if we have this information available and we see changes in it, then it'll be able to predict the GAM and SAM. We haven't seen that yet. Whether the improvements that are still to be done in the model change that, I'm not sure. But it'll be interesting to carry that conversation forward together with yourselves with the modelling that you're doing that we heard last week, and with LSHTM on what they're doing here.
Thanks, Kutab. Are there any other questions? Sorry, I can't see the chat.
Yeah, there's one question from Said Rahman. Said Rahman, do you want to ask your question just directly?
That's okay. I think Kutab asked along the same vein as I was going, and it was clarified by Mara already. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Though actually, maybe just to follow up on that, because it sounds like this and what Kutab and I worked on in South Sudan are quite similar, but we did end up using different data sources. I don't know if you guys are still looking for data sources, but I am wondering if there's some way that it would be able to support, if there's some way that the data source that we used for this, which we did put a lot of time into collating and stuff, might somehow support or improve the performance of another method. Just a thought to throw out there. Over.
Yeah, no, thank you, Said. Thank you for that feedback. I think that's great, and maybe it would be great we can get in touch bilaterally and see if we can set up a call together with LSHTM and see if what you've done can be useful as well. To join the two. Thank you.
Maybe just a follow-up on this last piece, Louise. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Jana.
Just because it is useful to publish information that can tell us that some things are not as working as well as we thought they would. So Mara, my question to you would be: are you still going to publish on the first model that did not really predict much? and then look into other ways to improve it, just for the sector to be able to learn from what has worked and what hasn't, and building on that, not only for data sources, but also what kind of models will work and what kind of models will not, rather than everyone repeating the same mistakes. So I'm wondering if these things will be published.
Yes, for sure. So that definitely is part of the plan, and that's, sorry, I should have been more specific under the documentation, that it's definitely part of it, is to publish. So we will definitely still publish. I think that LSHDM are just keen to finish. I mean, yeah, because they just want to kind of do more tweaks to this model that they've already got. So it's not kind of changing completely, but I think what worked and what didn't work, if we see improvements later, we would still definitely document that whole process when we publish, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Thanks,
Can
Jana.
I ask,
Yes, Hassan, go ahead.
Yeah. Mara, do you know what the lead time for prediction is?
You mean when we're going to have this finished?
No,
or...
so in terms of prediction of GAM, are we looking at 6 months, 1 year, like forecast? Is it forecasting? Or maybe I'm not understanding too well.
Yeah, okay.
How far in the future can we predict malnutrition?
Yeah, okay. I'm not sure that we actually have that. I mean, we said in as near real time as possible, but I'm not sure that we actually kind of defined how real time that is, and how far the predictions would go. So yeah, that one I would need to ask and get back to you on.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Can I ask one follow-up question?
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Actually, on follow-up what Hassan is saying, this was actually also come in my mind, because the data sources which we used, the one which was Myra, was from different time periods. So I don't know how to predict game on different time periods of information. And then I also have seen that there is a lot of data sources there. So likely it will at the end we will have many variables. So Mara, do you think there will be any? It seems like there will be overfitting. So I don't know. Did you people discuss about this issue or not? What do you? Thank you.
I'm sorry, Kutab, what did you say on the variables? There are very many variables, but what?
Yeah, I'm saying like data sources will be one. What I have seen it like maybe the data source will be from different times. Like maybe this all data sources will be not from the same time. So there will be a challenge to predict game rate, because, for example, for FSMS data, the one we use for the same children from the same season. So for us was straightforward. We were lucky. But in your case, because you were dealing with a more complex modeling, and I have seen that you are also dealing with many data sources. So it seems like you will have your predictors will be from many different sources, and it will be likely more than what so far we got it. So did you think about that part, that is there any chance of overfitting or not on the modeling side?
Okay, so all the information that was collected to go into the model was collected from 2015 up to 2019, where it was available, and as disaggregated as possible, so it is a lower level geographical level as possible, but also time periods, disaggregated time periods as possible, and then the idea or the thinking was that there would be a set of predictors. I don't know how many we didn't know how many might be in that set that would be strongly associated with predicting GAM and SAM, but that's the part that there hasn't been that strong association. Because then the idea would have been to use that smaller set of predictors going forward, and then we would have you know, the model's already built based on kind of the geographical spread and with the time variations built into it, if that makes sense. And if that answers your question.
Yeah, Mara, it's clear. Thank you very much.
Thanks, thanks, Kuta. Mara, I just had, if there's no other question from colleagues, I was just wondering for the second piece where you would want to do use MUAC as the indicator and not weight for height. I'm just wondering if we already have these results from weight for height, do we expect anything different, you know, using MUAC as an indicator? And maybe what's the thinking behind also investigating this with a different indicator?
Yeah, I'm not sure, to be honest, like if it will make a difference. And I think even from the discussions I've had with Severine, I mean, she doesn't know yet if it'll make a difference, but I think it's more a case of adding MUAC into the model as well. Maybe rather than, sorry, making it one or the other, it's just including MUAC as well. But I don't think she's not sure if it will make a difference, but she just, yeah, they want to try it and see if it has any effect. So I can give an update to when it's done, but I can't really explain the statistics or the reasons why behind. Sorry to say.
Okay. No, I think that's okay. Okay. Are there any other questions related to Mara's presentation? Okay, if not, maybe just to quickly mention that the UNICEF team that works on the joint malnutrition estimates have also been looking at better ways to come up with wasting estimates, and now even looking at country models as a way to be able to improve the wasting estimate. So just to know that Chika, who leads that work from UNICEF, may reach out to you, Mara, maybe just to learn a bit more on the work that you're doing and to see if there are possible areas of collaboration.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Okay, great. So if there are no more questions, thank you, Mara. That's really interesting. And again, also looking forward to the findings when they come out. And really it would be great if you could keep the team posted as this piece of work moves forward. So now I would like us to stop there and hand it over to Anna, who will take us through